Yo guys, welcome back to the channel, and in this video we're going to be reviewing a really cool Beyblade from the Plastic Gen era. So those of you who are Plastic Gen fans, this video should really be exciting to you. You can probably tell what Beyblade I'm going to be reviewing just from the parts in the box. But for those of you who don't know, Plastic Gen was basically the first ever release of Beyblades. We had Beyblade that was released in 2001, I think 2000. Then we had Beyblade V-Force, released in 2002. Then in 2003 we had Beyblade G-Revolution, and that's where this specific Beyblade is from. And so given that we're in 2025 now, you can tell that this is a really old Beyblade. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to talk about the box first of all, go over the box and what it says and the information it says on the box. Then we're going to go through each part, and then obviously we're going to build the blade together, give it a few test spins, and yeah, just run off the review with just some final thoughts on what I think of this Beyblade. For those of you who aren't familiar with Plastic Gen, you're probably thinking, well, all these parts, there's a lot of parts of this Beyblade, and there is. Plastic Gen was probably the series that had the most parts when it came to customizing and building Beyblades. Obviously, as you go through each generation, Metal Fight, Beyblade Burst, and X, less and less parts were formed to make a Beyblade. But Plastic Gen definitely had the most parts, and the worst thing is this is the final series of Plastic Gen which had the least parts out of the Plastic Gen, series. So if you look back to the first series of Beyblade, or even Beyblade V-Force, like the spin gear will have like 6 or 5 different parts, different attack rings. Obviously the blade base had different parts. So yeah, you're looking at a lot of parts when it comes to Plastic Gen and Beyblades. But for this review, I will go through each part, talk about each part individually. But yeah, first let's go over to the box. So this Beyblade is known as GAIA Dragoon G. So we have the image here of Beyblade GAIA Dragoon G. We have the owner, who is known as Daichi. He was an interesting character. He didn't really he wasn't really talked about that much, but he was only in Beyblade G-Revolution. He wasn't in any of the sequels before that. But yeah, really cool character, very energetic. And here we have a nice big image of GAIA Dragoon. In the English language it was known as Strutter Dragoon. And here we can see it says A108 with a little symbol of the spin gear. And this Beyblade does have a gimmick. It has the engine gear gimmick. Again, for those of you who aren't familiar, you won't know what that is, but we will go over to the parts and talk about that in more detail. Here again it says EG system, meaning engine gear system. This is a right spinning Beyblade. You can see Dragoon in this nice deep purple. And yeah, it's Takara, of course. And then if we go just quickly to the top of the box, here's a right spinning Beyblade, a little bit of how the engine gear works. It's actually a really cool gimmick. The engine gear was a really interesting and cool gimmick. I think it was ahead of its time. Again, I'll show you how that works when we do some test spins and test battles. So looking at the side of the box, it has this type of dual layer attack ring, which is pretty cool. And again, showing the engine gear, how it works. At the bottom of the box, and over to the other side of the box, you can see Dragoon does come with a winder to wind the engine gear. Again, I'll show you how that works. And a few other images here. And then we get to the back of the box. You can see it has all the different parts laid out, all the stats for each part. It's a 5-layer system. Then more about the engine gear. And yeah, pretty basic Plastic Gen box. Yeah, so that's the box. Now let's go through each part. Let's actually start with the engine gear. So as you can see, it's, for those of you who know Plastic Gen will know that the spin gear had different parts and you had the blade base and whatnot. However, in this series in G-Revolution, they kind of put the spin gear with the tip all in one. But yeah, this is the engine gear part. You can see it says engine gear on there, right spin. And just quickly, just to show you how it works, you do get a winder with your engine gear Beyblade. What you do is you just wind it up, and then once you wind it up, you just release, and honestly it is a really cool gimmick. Like I said, I'll show you once we go through the test spins and battles. But yeah, essentially that's the engine gear. It's like a mini engine in your Beyblade. Because DRAGOON was an attack type, it had a flat tip. Here you can see metal flat. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the engine gear. Just quickly, here's the winder. Very basic tool. And then let's get into the blade base. It is quite a chunky part. So this is what holds the spin gear in place. You have these little clips that lock the spin gear in place. As we're building out, I'll show you. Here are the stickers. This GAIA DRAGOON bomb. FC base, I don't know if you can see that FC there, stands for final clutch. And so with the engine gear Beyblades, some engine gears had different releases in battle. So basically, if you had an engine gear blade and you used it, some would release straight away, the engine gear would release straight away. Some would, you know, have more time in the battle before they're released. So in this case, final clutch meant the engine gear will release a bit later on during battle. Kind of had like an extra burst. You can almost think of it as Pegasus final drive mode in a sense, whereas something like a DRAGOON G would release the engine gear straight away. And you can see it's in this nice deep purple color, which is really nice with the red stickers. So that's the blade base. Next we go into the weight disc. So we have the most heaviest part of the Beyblade, of a plastic gem Beyblade, was the weight disc. This is 1, 2, 3, 5 small, I believe, 5 heavy. It's one of the smaller weight discs in the series. Yeah, pretty generic part. And then we have the dual layer attack ring. So this is pretty cool. So DRAGOON comes, which I said, GAIA DRAGOON comes with 2 parts to the attack ring. Here you have the saw part, which goes underneath the actual main attack ring. And it's cool, it's free spinning, which is pretty nice. And yeah, it just goes underneath like that, but it's essentially just like a saw. It's plastic, of course. And then we have the main attack ring part. See, it's just GAIA DRAGOON G. Again, nice with this purple color with the stickers. And here's the attack ring together. And then finally, we have the bit chip, which was on all plastic gem Beyblades, sorry. So every plastic gem Beyblade had a bit chip. It is a part you don't really need. You can use a Beyblade without a bit chip, whereas, you know, if you look at the Metal Saga, Beyblade X, kind of like the face bolt and the bit part is most important because it kind of keeps the Beyblade together. Where in plastic gen you could kind of just, it wasn't really as an important part. It just looked cool to see the avatar. So here we have the bit chip. Now quickly, I'm just going to build this blade together to show you how everything goes together. So we just place the engine gear inside the blade base. Use the clips to lock that down. Place the blade base all together. So have the weight disc on top. We add the attack ring. Make sure that's locked in. And finally the bit chip. And then we have GAIA DRAGOON G all built together. If I didn't tell you, G stands for great, so it's GAIA DRAGOON great. Yeah, pretty cool Beyblade, very chunky. Most of the G Revolution Beyblades were pretty chunky because obviously they had the engine gear gimmick, so they have all like the springs and mechanics inside the Beyblade base. But yeah, pretty cool Beyblade. Does pretty well in battle as well. And yeah, that's the Beyblade all built together. Now I'm going to show you some test spins and show you how the engine gear works. Okay guys, so as you can see I'm at the stadium and we're just going to give GAIA DRAGOON a normal test spin without the engine gear involved, and then I'll give you a test spin with the engine gear. So yep, first let's do without the engine gear just to show you the movement patterns and how it goes around the stadium. So you can see as an attack type it's pretty aggressive. I didn't launch it that hard to be fair, but you can see just by the movement that it's obviously an attack type Beyblade. Okay, and now what I will do is I will wind up. So just quickly guys, so I don't know if you remember, as I mentioned, this is a first clutch base, which means the engine gear is released later on during battle. And to do that, all you gotta do is just pull these clips out, and once they're pulled out, you can then attach your winder and then get winding. And so what's going to happen is, as DRAGOON, or sorry, GAIA Dragoon slows down, these will attract in, or if it gets hit hard enough, they will attract in, and then the engine gear will get released. And yeah, so I'll show you how that works. It might not work too well just by a test spin without a barrel, but I might have to knock it a few times, so let's see. So I'm just going to try and knock it to release it. So you can see it gave it quite a bit extra burst of power, which is pretty nice. Now let's show you guys how that works in an actual battle. Okay guys, so that's pretty much it for this Beyblade review on the GAIA Dragoon G. Just a few final thoughts about the Beyblade and the test battles. So just from the battles you can see that the engine gear doesn't always plan out to be good. Sometimes it can be released and it's just not that good. It's a bit flat, a bit like Final Drive to be fair with Pegasus. Doesn't always work out, but still a really cool gimmick, very fun gimmick. Definitely makes Beyblade battles a bit more dynamic. And again, like I said, it was pretty much ahead of its time, being released in 2003. And then just final thoughts, you know, it's a really cool Beyblade. I'm pretty much an OG Beyblade fan, so I enjoy pretty much all plastic gen Beyblades. But obviously in terms of battle, power and, you know, dynamic, definitely Beyblade X, and especially we had the Metal Saga with Beyblade, Metal Fusion, Metal Fury. The battles were definitely more, you could say, epic and explosive. But yeah, it's more just for collection for me. I love the plastic gen Beyblades just for nostalgic reasons. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this review. Really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.